Hey, what's going on, my little party people and nomads everywhere? My name is V, and right now I'm rocking a button-up shirt with a new black hoodie. So, you all probably figuring out, it's Tuesday, V. We heard you were doing something, so what the hell you doing? Well, if you guys saw what my buddy Max pulled up for y'all in a previous video a couple of days ago, it was... But I wanted to do the first part of the review series I'm going to be doing in a row, because unlike Thursday, it was just going to be me watching the thing, then filming it, and then posting it on that day. Tuesday is going to be me marathoning the show, and then posting it in segments for all of you guys to see. And the show we're going to be talking about right now, every Tuesday until the end, is this show right here.
In a land of myth and a time of magic, the destiny of a great kingdom rests on the shoulders of a young boy. His name, Merlin.
Yeah, I'm talking about Merlin. Yeah, I know. A lot of people love the show. A lot of people are going to probably give me grief on this, which is why I'm rocking the button-up shirt and a black beanie to show that I'm going to be serious about this and take my note process to heart, because I wrote it down in the smartphone, all the notes I need to know. So it's not like I'm going to just go off the handle with things in a weird script like I do in all my other reviews. But anyway, we're going to talk about the first episode of the first season of Merlin, being The Dragon's Call. Now, to everyone, it's kind of like starting off how most things in Arthurian lore might start off with someone walking. If you guys read anything involving Arthurian lore, it always involves someone walking down a path. However, the show begins with Merlin going from his village, which we'll go into in a different season, of going from his village to arriving in Camelot for the first time. And it is so beautiful how they made the set designs and everything, from how they made it seem very authentic to the Middle Ages of the time period and further on, which is kind of like, oh my god, this is beautiful, man. How many times are we going to see this scene and structure like this? A lot, as a matter of fact, which is something I'm honestly looking forward to. And then it just follows up with us meeting the current king of the era, since if Merlin just arrived in Camelot, you're probably thinking, oh, it's the Sword and the Stone story! Yay! Obviously you've never seen Merlin, because it starts off with Arthur. Arthur not being the king, but his father, Uther Pendragon, still ruling over Camelot, or Ambien, the country, with an iron fist saying, I want nothing to do with magic, it is outlawed, all of you magic users are the devil's minions, your reign is now over, as we shall now execute this poor man for using magic for some unknown reason that we have no idea how to reveal to the audience. So they behead a man in front of everyone in broad daylight in the town square, or probably in front of the castle square, like the pavilion, where a grieving magical lady, the grieving mother, is just standing there kind of like, you killed my son! I will make sure you feel the exact pain that I feel! Ah! And then she just vanishes in a giant evil steam of magic, and it's kind of like, oh shit! Ah well, we gotta follow Merlin as he then goes off to meet the first person on his journey of Gaius, his future mentor throughout the entire seasons of Merlin, as he saves his life by using magic for the first time. Which is actually an interesting take on it, because unlike saying that Merlin spent years and years learning magic, it's saying that as a young adult, Merlin himself knew instinctively how to cast magic with just his mind, where he just looks at something and time froze, and then he used telekinesis magic to move something so he could save Gaius from a nasty fall. Where Gaius is now kind of like, how do you know this? How do you know this? Because to everyone, we're just like, how does Merlin know how to do all these things? Because how we know magic is like you have to do an incantation and whatnot, which is something that we see later on in the episode. But after that, it's kind of like, he's trying to find out who Merlin is, because he hasn't met him yet, until he gives him a letter from his mother, Hunich. And then the letter is just going into details of saying that Merlin was born with this gift. They need to harness it to make sure that he's kept safe, and is doing tremendous work throughout it all because of Gaius' own record of his former use of magic going into a broader spectrum of things. And because of that letter, they're now trying to discern how Merlin found out his magical abilities and what awoken them, and even how can he do what he does, which we'll never find out in this episode. That's for later seasons to dive into. And during that process, we then have to move on to introducing a whole bunch of other characters, where we are introduced to Morgana, which, if you guys have known Arthurian lore, means that person's not going to have a happy life, and it's not going to be happy for us. Where she's having an argument with her adopted father / patron, who's like apparently his ward, which is still not what the word actually means. Like, they're trying to say the word of ward is like someone taken under the care of the person, but that's not the original definition of the word. That's a middle-aged word that's a lot more gruesome and a lot sicker if you actually know what it means from what it's originally from. Middle Ages time, it's just someone that adopts you. It's like your adopted father or mother or whatever. You're just their ward now. You're their adopted child. So she's just having an argument with Uther about his magical policies as he's going into how they're going to get the magical singing voice of Lady Helen of Mora, who is probably a terrific singer. Too bad we're not going to know what the fuck she sings, because magical lady, grieving mother, tracks down the lady in a weird tent thing outside of Camelot, not that far away, and straight up kills her to steal her identity and infiltrate Camelot from the inside out. And then we have to cut a flash all the way to the next day, where Merlin is woken up from a telekinetic shout from our favorite man of so many different talents is going to be on this channel for a long time, of John Hurt. He has been the War Doctor. He's been in Snowpiercer as Gideon. He's been Snitter in Plague Dogs, and I think he was Fiverr in Watership Down. He's been a lot of roles that's going to be prolific in my career as a reviewer, but we're getting off topic about his awesomeness. But how does he fall in the formula? He telekinetically wakes up Merlin by saying, "Merlin, Merlin, Merlin." And I'm thinking to myself, Snitter, Snitter, shut your ass up. It's 4 a.m. in the morning. Bitches are still sleeping. I'm a magic boy. Shut the fuck up. But sure, Merlin wakes up trying to eat breakfast from Gaius, but Gaius is still kind of skeptical about how Merlin's magic works. So he knocks over a bucket full of water because, you know, that's how you bathe back in the day. And Merlin catches it instinctively with magic, and then just lets it drop after a small amount of time, but still no one knows why he can do what he does. So Gaius is just like, okay, since we don't know nothing, how about you do some work for me until we find you some work. Deliver these to these insignificant characters that's not going to appear in the series anymore. Go, 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 go. Where we see some insignificant characters, just this one guy downing this one bottle like it's a fucking shot at the club, like, glah, 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 glah. And then we move on to an actually important character of Arthur Pendragon. Now, those of you are like, oh, Arthur, that's our favorite king. He's going to be all nice and prestige and be humble. And you're thinking about later seasons Arthur. No. In Merlin's first season, this is what I've honestly forgotten about Arthur after years of not watching the show. In the first season, when he's first introduced, Arthur is brash, ill-mannered, arrogant, and an absolute dick. But you can't say dick on TV unless you actually mean it in a modern sense, so he's an ass. He's an ill-mannered, brash, arrogant ass. And yet, when Merlin stands up to him like a respectable person would, even if he's a prince, he is still a dick. You have to stand up to someone if they're being a dick, no matter if they're royalty or not. That's just my own personal perspective on it. Because he stands up to Arthur saying that what he did was dickish and wrong because he was throwing knives at someone when they were trying to put up the target, Merlin is thrown in jail because he wanted to stand up to Arthur, and he's in there for the entire night. Not even lying. That's how it rolls. But during the night, when Merlin is asleep and Arthur's asleep and all the main characters are asleep, the magical lady / grieving mother arrives in Camelot in disguise as Lady Helen of Mora, where she's getting into place where she's going to do something involving killing Arthur. Did not divulge into how. Just like, there's this one lady. I'm going to sneak in there, and then when I get in there to try and kill Arthur, I don't have a plan. I don't have a plan. But enough about her not having a plan and just strolling in the bitch like, okay. We go back to Merlin, where he's woken up again by John Hurt's Merlin. And after he's woken up by Merlin, he gets the shocking reveal of having Gaius getting him out of jail. But there's a catch. See, Gaius has pull in the Royal Academy of whatever with knights and the royal pulls inside the kingdom. So it's like, we're gonna get you out of jail. We're gonna get you out of jail, but you gotta get pelted by food. This is what you get for trying to be a nice guy in Camelot during the Middle Ages. Your shit is gonna be fucked up. You're gonna have food thrown at you and all that, but there's a reward at the end of the tunnel, though. He gets to meet the future of Camelot, which is of Guinevere, which they spelled Gwenhwyfer. Instead of how Guinevere is actually spelled, they spelled like that. But luckily they just call her Gwen, and she's the nicer person that Arthur gets to meet besides Gaius. Where, sure, Gwen is saying that people were admiring Merlin for standing up to Arthur for being a dick, and comparing them because of Arthur being like this big guy or whatever, being like save the world type of brawny. Merlin was not, even though looks can be deceiving. Like, apparently these arms are like pythons when I hug somebody real tight. But aside from that, though, when Gwen's just trying to brighten up Merlin's day, there is more food to be thrown at him. Hilarious middle-aged humor. But then we move on from that to Merlin going back home. Well, Gaius' home. He doesn't have a home in Camelot to really speak of. Where Gaius is still trying to divulge into how Merlin's magic works. Which, again, we don't find out in this episode. In fact, all of Season 1, we don't really know how his magic comes into play, about how it became a thing. We know how other things happen, but no one really can understand how Merlin's magic is a thing. It's just kind of like, he was born with the gifts, and that's about it. They have no other way to discern it. They're just kind of like, how does it work? Which is fair. But, spending an entire amount of runtime just trying to discern on how it works without really getting into how section, it's kind of like, you kind of wasted a good amount of time setting up a plot line that won't get answered at all. It's kind of like, okay. Well, fuck. Anywho, from that whole standpoint, how do we go into other things about Merlin? He decides to go out for a stroll doing some more errands for Gaius, sure. Where he meets Arthur again. Does not go well at all, like in the first appearance. You see, because Arthur is a dick, he decides to dick around with Merlin because, hey, when you're Arthur and you're gonna be the future king of Camelot, you can afford to be a dick and people will like you, right? No. That is why Arthur will never be my favorite character throughout all of Season 1. Fuck him. So, because Merlin still wanted to stand his ground and stand up to Arthur because that's what you're supposed to do with the dick, Arthur decides to fight him with maces, or flails as it were, where they're fighting throughout the entire market where it goes from one span of the market where it was like in either the town square or in a different section of town, all the way into the Grand Bazaar market, where it seems like all hope is lost until Merlin's like, duh, I got magic. Where he just makes everything all comedic slapstick until Merlin's got the upper hand, until he sees Gaius in the crowd, and then Arthur decides to take him out with a hit to the back and knocks him on his ass so that his people can be like, yo, let's get him now, son, let's get him now. But Arthur's like, no, guys, no. I think he's an idiot, but he's a brave one. He's a brave-ass idiot. Let us leave and be dicks to someone else. I think there's like a girl we can objectify over there. Or something like that, I don't know. But afterwards, Merlin gets lectured over how he can use magic, and then how it's still illegal since Uther is kind of a racist against magic users. But since Merlin is like, if I don't have magic, I'm nothing, which is a fair argument for a magic user, I'm saying. He then goes into a whole tangent upon that whole thing for why was he born this way? Is he a monster? Again, fair tropes for someone that just is like, I don't know how my gifts work. Am I a monster? That happens. And yet, Gaius can't help him because even he's in the dark about how his powers work, but he knows he's not a monster. That's the only bright side of it. But we don't get any more divulging information from that because we have to go back into the grieving mother going after Uther about divulging into where the son will be for the big banquet celebrating the peace and tranquility that happened within Camelot, as Ambien is now magic-free. Yes, it's as magic-free as I am not brown. Yeah. Anywho, because of this, they're trying to discern where is Arthur going to be because they want to exact the perfect revenge by... You still haven't given us what your plan was, so whatever. But enough about that. How do we go back to Merlin? Well, we have to get him to get woken up again by John Hurt's Merlin one more time, as he then decides to be like, you know what, this is some bullshit. Let me sneak out, let me do my thing, let me track him down, and let's get it on. I'm tired of getting cold. And it's just like, wait, what about Gaius? But luckily for Merlin, Gaius is a heavy sleeper. So he's like, you know what, let me use my magic to pull up the blanket so he's a lot more comfy. Then I'm going to be going over to the castle because that's probably where the telepathic messages are coming from. Which it does, but he has to first distract the guards by using magic to throw the dice all the way down behind this one door so they can just keep following down some stairs, down some hallways onto a separate adventure. It'll probably be an interesting comic, but it's probably not going to be published. So afterwards, he takes a small little torch to go into a weird cavern of sorts, going down some stairwell and a location in the castle that we don't really know about because the architecture is different between each and every iteration of Camelot. But we do end up having him go into the catacombs or caves or either or for your interpretation, where Arthur finally meets the dragon face to face, because in the beginning of the show they're talking about a dragon being captured and set inside this cave by Uther Pendragon when he decided to murder all of the dragons to usher out an entire peace from magic. So the only dragon left alive is John Hurt. Or is he? I'm only saying that only to have you guys like, is there only one dragon? I must know, I must watch the show. Which you're gonna find a wonderful message to, by the way. Still though, once Merlin meets the dragon decides to do his best John Hurt style of narration and exposition dumps by pointing out the obvious. Merlin is destined to help Arthur, the future king of Camelot, usher in a new wave of peace as magic users are brought back into the fold. As everything else in Arthurian lore, where we're going to have wonderful people in lakes, we're going to have flying creatures in the sky, we're going to have the Black Knight, we're going to have the Knights of the Round Table, we're going to have the future Queen of Camelot. Everything's going to be spectacular. We're going to have Excalibur. But first, Merlin has to make sure that the dickweed grows into that man. Which is a tall order, I will admit. But my boy Merlin, I feel like he could do it. I've seen the myths of it happen, so he can do it. He can do it. Be that as it may, Merlin's still confused and not sure how to accept the whole exposition dump, as a lot of people would from hearing a dragon say this. I would think I was on some heroin or something else. But Gaius decides to wake up Merlin after that exposition dump, and it's like, you need to deliver all this stuff to some people we're not going to see on camera, and they're going to see Morgana. Honestly, I don't like Morgana. I've never liked Morgana. Even in the mythology, I've never liked Morgana at all. Even if they draw her sexual and attractive and whatnot, Morgana is a bitch. That is it. That is plain and simple. Morgana is a bitch. Still, though, it's kind of hilarious how she and Merlin first meet, because she's so wrapped up in her own little world about me. Oh, Arthur didn't ask me to the thing. Oh, me. If I'm gonna turn heads, maybe in this one. Me. And just mistakes Merlin for Gwen for some stupid reason. And then it's just doing all this stuff like, can you get me my dress? Can you help me fasten my corset? Until Gwen pops in and just like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, I don't know, can you just do this and act like you've been here the whole time? Oh, okay, yeah, we got this. And then it just plays out like any other comedy would. No one knows the difference. But aside from that, we then have to go back into the Magic Lady, because it's time for her big plan of we don't know what the fuck the plan is. Still, she's just honestly getting prepared as the servant girl comes in to give her some baskets of fruit and whatnot that the king sent over. Then as soon as the girl sees the thing in the reflection about what she actually looks like outside of her magic, the grieving mother magic lady decides to swallow her essence to shut her up. Leaving her without any other distractions or anyone else discovering her secret as the soiree commences, where everyone in the kingdom that matters shows up, especially dick-ass Merlin, still making fun about how he beat Merlin in a fight, even though last time I checked, yo ass was laid out, ready to get Joe fucking pretty-ass face wrecked by a flail, but whatever. Yo sneak attack and bitch ass attack from behind move worked, whatever. Where everyone just put in a standstill of silence as Morgana enters the room in her most attractive dress. And even Merlin's just like, oh. Probably because somehow, in some weird way, there's a thing that says in the lore that Merlin and Morgana are apparently sometimes an item. How, why, it doesn't matter. Anywho, because of this happening, Merlin is now being forced into a different exposition dump of foreshadowing. A foreshadowing exposition dump from Gwen, saying that Morgana kind of seems like she is made to be queen. Not that I would want to be her one day. And yet everyone that knows the third lore is just like, Gwen, honey, be patient, dearie, because things are there's a funny thing about how life works. But don't worry. Just keep thinking you're not gonna be queen. Just keep thinking you're not gonna be queen. Shh. Anywho, aside from that whole bullshit, they're just like, we're at peace now, and blah da da, and blowing shit out my ass, and blah da da, until Uther decides to introduce Lady Helen of Mora, where she just decides to sing, which she kinda does. I mean, the actress that did the role that is singing is a very, very talented actress and a very talented singer. Probably someone that does a lot of stage musicals and whatnot, and I applaud her for her voice. However, in the role, her singing causes everyone to go to sleep that listens to her song. Kind of like, I would show clips, but this is kind of like a non-clip sort of series, so let's just imagine, say, a magical fairy putting things to sleep. As like someone with a wand casts a card where everyone in the town is put to sleep. If you guys know what I'm talking about, good. If you don't, just look up how people honestly describe that and you'll find out what I'm talking about. So, as soon as the music is keep on going with an incantation being all the lyrics, everyone that's asleep is now being entangled by spider webs. Why? How? It's magic. We don't need to explain. And yet Merlin, being the only smart one that caught on that people are falling asleep, was covering up his ears. Apparently he wasn't the only one. Apparently, even though off-screen doesn't count. But because Merlin covered up his ears to block out the song, he was able to stop the grieving mother by instinctively using his magic to make a chandelier drop on her to knock her unconscious so that everyone could wake up in a sea of confusion, like, huh? But why are we in spider webs? This isn't Japan. There's no spider ladies that live here. Right? Right? I'm so confused by life. And yet it all goes back into Uther looking at the grieving mother again, kind of like, oh shit, this is irony. I did something wrong and now I'm getting punished. But I don't care because I'm Uther fucking Pendragon. It doesn't even sink into his head just like, maybe I should stop banning magic. He's just like, no. This is what I mean by magic being wrong. You can even see by his face. He doesn't even say it. He's just like, this is why magic is evil. Not, if I didn't kill this lady's son because of my own weird thing about magic, we wouldn't have been almost killed for some odd reason. Ah, well, whatever. No, he doesn't even think that. That's what makes Uther such a fucking asshole. So instead of going into that whole route of whatever the fuck she was doing in her original plan, the grieving mother is just like, you know what, I failed, but you know what? I have a knife. I'm just gonna throw it at Arthur out of nowhere. And I'm just like, okay, this is a stupid ass plan. Like, honestly, I'm gonna stop the review right here where I'm just going to honestly ask you guys, if you have a weird plan where you're going to automatically sing someone in submission to being in a coma and then knife them in their sleep, did you actually think the plan through, or did you just think that on the fly when you just automatically snuck in? It's just like, okay, let me go over my checklist. Let's see. Take the identity of somebody, check. Get into the castle, check. Find my target, check. Plan for killing. Oh wait, I don't have a plan. Let's see. I can sing to put them to sleep. And I have a knife. I got it. I'm gonna sing them to sleep, then knife the boy. Yeah, that'll be smart. Yeah. It's not like I need a follow-up plan in case there's another magic user in the room. Which you need to account for anything if you're gonna do an assassination attempt, guys. I'm just saying. From all the time I've been writing an assassination series, you need to honestly have follow-up plans in case something goes wrong. Still though, it all pans out to something else where as soon as she ends up like, I'm gonna throw the knife at Arthur to avenge my son's death, Merlin's just like, fuck this, I'm gonna save the guy that I hate, and pulls Arthur away from the knife to save him, even though Merlin earlier on in the episode was just like, I will gladly help anyone kill Arthur. Yeah, son, what you have destined, you cannot kill him. You could try, but you'll just end up hurting yourself. And because he saves Arthur, Uther's just like, you must be rewarded. But, let's see, I could give you a house, I could put you on the court or something respectful. No, wait, no, I know it. I'm gonna put you on the royal council, but you are my son's manslave. Yes, I did a great job as King of Camelot. I've successfully banned magic, so a lady came to try and kill me. And now I've made a man that I know nothing about and probably has magic become my son's manservant. Everything I'm doing is so smart. Because I'm Uther motherfucking Pendragon. And it's kind of like Merlin and Arthur are kind of not feeling the whole being together thing. Which I would understand because Arthur's a dick and Merlin's a person. But I digress, though. It kind of goes into a weird route of saying that fate has a way of happening. It's kind of like the theme of the series. No matter how much you fight fate, your destiny is always going to be paid for you in mythology. If it's real life, fuck it. Your fate is whatever you want it to. But in mythology, your fate is sealed. You are always bound to your destiny. Medusa cannot be anyone else besides a Gorgon and have her head chopped off because that is her fate. Zeus cannot help but be a man-whore because that is his fate. Anansi cannot help but be a great storyteller in West African mythology because that is his fate. Izanami and Izanagi cannot be in the same plane of existence and have a healthy marriage in Shinto mythology because that is fate and destiny, and you cannot fight fate and destiny in mythology. Which is a good thing because, as I say because all the time, because. Since Merlin saved Arthur's life and Gaius saw him because apparently off screen, he closed his ears to not hear the song and watch the whole event, which would have been a nice change of perspective so we could see from Gaius' perspective on things. He decides to give Merlin his first and his most prolific tool throughout the entire show, the magic book, which has all the secrets of all the spells, ingredients for potions, whatever you want, all in one giant book. And yet the entire episode ends with Merlin being called by a random knight or whatever to be called to Merlin. Not Merlin. Merlin is called to a different call as a knight is saying that Arthur needs him. And yet the whole thing closes out with him going out the door to meet his destiny. And that is The Dragon's Call. My own thoughts on it, I'll give it to you in a second. Doing these unedited is going to be a bitch, but whatever. Still, the premiere to Merlin, to me, even though it's been years since I've seen the original, is actually very solid. I mean, I've read all the mythology things involving the Knights of the Round Table, the dragon things, Lady in the Lake, Merlin teaching magic, Arthur becoming King of Camelot, the future marriage between Arthur and his future queen, Morgana being... But as an introduction to a whole new way of how the mythology works out in Arthurian lore, it was pretty well done. It was structured great. The setting was phenomenal. Everything that was made in the background was fantastic. The extras didn't waste any time being good extras. All of the people that weren't important characters made their moments matter. And even the villain, even though I make fun of her, was a good first villain for Merlin. Since he didn't know a lot of magic and he needed to learn how fate works and how he needs to protect people, this was a good thing to know because he honestly showed some good detective work about finding out how she was early on in the episode where he saw her first magic book, and even some stuff about voodooism, which is something that's not really touched upon in the show a lot, but when it is, it's kind of a really, really big plot point. And even though I find Arthur a dick throughout the first episode, I'm only saying that because I've seen him in the later seasons where I see where he's a great character because of Merlin. So it honestly bugs me that they're trying to say that because Merlin is the only big thing of the show, Arthur was always a dick. It's kind of like, because he was an only child and his dad's wife died after giving birth to him or whatever, he grew up because... fuck it, dad didn't want to be a good dad and raised me a dick and entitled and an asshole and kind of a racist towards magic people, so fuck anything else, Arthur, you're just good. Instead of how he's just like adopted by people and then raised into a different setting and then becoming King of Camelot by releasing the sword and the stone, since he's the legitimate heir as Uther Pendragon's son, which would have been an easy thing to do, but I appreciate what they did in this series, making it its own spin, and even keeping to the lore as best as they could. My only problem and gripe with it is the fact that, honestly, trying to build an entire story around how Merlin's magic is special without anyone knowing about it is kind of an open and shut case. If it's nothing that you've seen, it's new because Merlin was born this way with magic. Unlike people that were trained in it, Merlin was born with it because of how things work. If people are born a certain way to wield magic, it's because there is magic within them that's more prolific than others. There are people that are born out in the world of the Arthurian mythology that can do magic by the time they're like, I don't know, 4 months old, like Merlin is. But the thing is, building a plot around the mystery of it is kind of open and shut when you just think about it like I am. Magic does what magic does. It doesn't need explanation. Still though, as all things being considered when it comes to A Dragon's Call being a good pilot episode, I liked it. I'm honestly looking forward to reviewing the rest of this as I'm about to watch the next episode, Valiant. So I will see you guys in that next week. And be cool, my little nomads, and be sure to stay cool and keep stylish. I'll see you guys next week.